Right then, friends, we are back on CubCamTV. We are joined today for another episode of Cave Talk by a very special guest. Treble Clef is in the building. How are you doing, my friend?
Yes. Big up, man. We're inside, man. I'm good, thank you. And you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been good to finally get this one down. Obviously, we were going to do it on breakfast originally, but we had a couple of issues getting it all to work. But we're now obviously live inside the building on this recording, which I've been really looking forward to doing. So yeah, I'm in a good mood, man. I'm in a good mood. How's your week been in general so far? Let's start off with some just general stuff.
No, the week's been cool, man. It's been good. It's been nice weather. Obviously, you know, with the current climate at the moment, with other things going on, it's been quite reflective, shall I say?
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, it's been a blessed week. Still being creative, still not trying to get caught up in, you know, in the hysteria of what's going on in the world right now, innit? To be quite honest with you. But other than that, you know, family's good, people are healthy. No one's been adversely affected by anything. Still keeping the products going, still creating, still speaking to artists. Not seeing as many people as frequent as, you know,
of course,
as everybody else, but man, everything blessed though, man.
That's good to hear, man. That is good to hear. I think as well, obviously with the current sort of scenario and the way it's kind of laying out, what we've seen more than anything, I think, is people trying to kind of utilize different sort of platforms, different ways they can do things from home. Like for instance, with yourself, I've been seeing I don't know how many times I've seen it, but I've definitely seen it pop up once or twice. You've been doing a sort of like live streams in regards to sort of production.
Oh yeah, of course, man. Just we've got to be as creative as possible with all the tools that are available to us right now, isn't it? Especially with being restricted with human contact and just, you know, how things were before. So yeah, it's another way to share. It's another way just to kind of connect, and some people can see the process. You know, for the fans, then people interested in music. It's another way. It's almost like this whole social media technological buzz is our new interface of communicating with each other. So
definitely, man. I think the maddest thing about this is in regards to sort of almost like human development to an extent. This is the first time where this sort of thing's happened in the history of the world, and people have been able to carry on to an extent doing what they would be doing anyway, just in a different way.
Yeah, of course, we're that's what we do best. Humans, we adjust. And we survive and we carry on, and we shouldn't just get too pessimistic about things, even though they may be blatant in our face. Like, you're still alive today, you're still breathing, you can still do something, you know?
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, there's a lot of stuff for us to kind of discuss on this one, obviously, because you are someone who has been involved in Grime and 140 music in general for now such an extended period of time. In general, it's going to be quite good to kind of dissect a few things that have kind of happened over the years in regards to sort of releases and things like that, just to try to put some sort of almost like a time frame on it. When would you say the first time you put together a piece of Grime music was?
Wow, it was definitely in secondary school. And I would say most probably year 7.
Wow.
Yeah, so maybe what age you are? Year 7, 11, maybe 11, 12.
Mad. I mean, the maddest thing about all of this, more than anything else, is obviously going back to those sort of times. It's almost like normal now. That's the weirdest thing. You see people starting to produce music in like year 7, year 8, year 9 because the facilities are.
It's the gateway.
Yeah, like the facilities are available in schools now, and you've obviously got like a lot of people kind of picking up on like software's so freely available now as well. Like people can get hold of things a lot easier. Like obviously when Grime was first sort of starting, that sort of stuff I'm assuming was nowhere near as readily available.
No, it wasn't. And I was lucky enough to go to a school that the music department was invested in by the school. So at the time, especially the time when I entered at that age, year 7. That was almost like the beginning and of computers being in classrooms, like IT departments, and, you know, proper introducing us to the web. And it was HTML them times there, and Cubase was the actual
Cubase
DAW.
as well. You know, like the maddest thing with Cubase is it's the only one that I look at and go, not a clue. I just don't understand it, to be serious.
They're all the same, you know. They're all the same. It's just different terminologies, obviously, because I can imagine they've all got different patents on different terminology, different ways to say the same function.
Of course.
But they're all the same, man. And Cubase is the father. Cubase is the father still. Yeah, man. That's my original DAW.
Nice, man. I mean, kind of, again, when we kind of look at this, obviously, if we're going to go into sort of software and stuff like that, we look over the years at how many things have kind of like developed. I mean, we hear people talking about like FL3 quite a lot. FL Studio 3 or 4, I think it was, seems to be the one that a lot of people kind of started on. We're up to 20 XX.
Come a long way.
Yeah, FL20 XXL producer edition times 10. I don't know what it's on now. I'm still I'm still on 10 myself. Like it's one of those ones. But when you kind of break it down, like all of these extra things that go into it, would you say to an extent like production's almost been kind of normalized to an extent for kind of creative people?
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah, of course it has. It's been normalized. There are more people doing it, or there are more people that can dabble in it, that it may not be their primary forte in a field, or they may just have a regular job and still know how to produce because it was something a skill which they learned in school, which they enjoyed and is stayed with them. And you can download it in an app now in different formats, isn't it? There's like different heavy duty. There could be a light Fruity Loops. I swear there's a Fruity Loops app.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I think most of them. I think most, not necessarily the programs, but I think most of the creators of the programs, like the sort of father, like the parent company to an extent, they have like software apps that do a similar thing to their software. Because I used to have the FL Studio app, but I've never really got into app producing. I've got to say that's something I've always kind of struggled with.
Yeah, those guys are like gamers. Like they're the original hardcore gamer guys that are making those apps. I think even Fruity Loops itself was designed by a pair of gamers that they were designing games. And the Fruity Loops thing was just it was just like an experiment. Innit?
I did not know that. I had no idea that was a thing.
Don't. Yeah, I'm like 90% sure. I can't even. I might even forget to come back to you. Don't exactly quote me on that. But yeah.
It's awesome to kind of hear more so about the kind of like how far things have come on more than anything else. Like, obviously, a big question I like to ask on this show. I like to do a sort of then and now comparison. And obviously, you're someone who has been around making music now at quite a high level for an extended period of time. Like, what would you say the main kind of difference is musically, in grime specifically, compared to say 10 years ago? Like, what's like the main sort of musical difference?
10 years ago, 2010. I would say even from say 2000 to 2010 and 2020 today, if we choose those 3 checkpoints. From 2000, production-wise, it's even then, I think musically speaking, excluding like sound engineering and like mixing down and all of that stuff, musically speaking, we've always had producers that have been there as in on a musical depth in terms of melodies, and it was a raw sound, and there were a lot more people that were actually just learning how to produce and just getting into spitting. So it was a very, very bright creative time where a lot of new things was being heard and being created. Of
course. Do you think to an extent that's why those earlier sort of times are more kind of expansive and almost to an extent more kind of unpredictable a lot of the time in the sort, especially in the rhythmic side of the production?
Because there are no rules, but there are always will be foundations and fundamentals. But on top of that, musically created at that time, it was special. It was special, and like there was nothing. For me, there was nothing bad. Like, I came from a musical background from playing instruments beforehand, like at secondary school level, going into college and whatnot. So I had a certain musical understanding where I could hear like chords on top of, say, like an ice rink.
Yeah.
An ice rink is very minimalistic, but it's got that industrial grime grit.
Yeah, of course.
And it's got an energy about it, which
it's a difficult thing to describe, isn't it? That grit is really difficult to describe.
It's just authentic. It's just real authentic, and it's real open for the MC. And then someone like me coming from like a musical background, I'll be like, imagine some chords over that or bass over that at that time still. But it wasn't the general, census of sound in grime at that time. But there were little sprinkles of it.
Definitely.
And from then to 2010, like say between when did German Whip come out? with Heavy Trumpets?
It's between 2011 and 2015. I think it's around that sort of. It's like the first half of the 2010 to 2020 period. I might look that up now. If I'm gonna have a quick look now.
I think it was early because I remember just being around the Olympic time, but even producers like that, there was a lot more of a polished, grimier, grit sound. Say at 2010.
Yeah, but yeah, no, 2014 German whip.
2014, okay, so then 4 years off, which is bad. But I swear down, I was hearing that tune a long while before it actually came out. So producers overall like had matured and ventured into different sounds, and like it was a more solid sound in 2010 and more broader, and like different producers. Some stayed in grime, a lot left and gone into different genres and are successful producers over there, and some have left the country. So like there's a core that stays with it in terms of grime, stays in the scene, and then you might have your people that you know that will always be there in terms of production and sound. But musically, you hear grime everywhere. You're hearing grime in drill. You're hearing grime in something. Well, I would say I could flip a grime thing on an afro.
Yeah.
Give it an afro swing, it's like, or even funky. It's all music. It's all the same thing, really.
Definitely,
like, in a philosophical standpoint, it's all the same. But it's grown really well, and now drill's here. So 2020, drill's here, and the drill's so popular internationally, like especially in America, and then we're hearing it in Australia, New Zealand. It's doing its thing. So that's kind of overtaking grime, definitely. And
would you say, just to quickly interrupt, I was about to say, would you say drill has overtaken grime in regards to popularity?
Yeah, of course. You can't deny it. You can't deny it. It's the front runner at the moment, but like not every genre is always the front runner. So like every genre in the UK's had its time. Funky's had its time. UK hip hop will always be there, but there's certain times when certain artists come through and really are prominent. Grime's had its time where it spat out its stars. You know, well, drill's having its time now. So it's, you know, R&B, like, will always still be there, but it's like you might hear an artist come and then they might feature on, I don't know, a grime artist chorus, and then you see them just go off and just do their thing. So it's all a cycle, isn't it?
Definitely.
And right now, grime's cycle, well, grime's position, I personally believe is not the front runner at the moment. But we had that in the session where like AJ, maybe from even it got put together for me when the big corporation like Red Bull got AJ, Dave, Mez, Jams, Kamikaze, and they were doing that freestyle on Trumpet Boom.
The clashes stuff, yeah.
That's that from that time up to, I don't know, what would you say? Maybe 2018.
I'd say 18. I think 2018 was when it became almost like you couldn't ignore drill anymore. You know, you couldn't kind of go, oh, it's this thing that's happening. It'll be gone soon. In 2018, it was like, okay, yeah, this thing's here now. It's not going anywhere. It's picking up momentum. It's growing exponentially. Like it's one of those things that you could see it skyrocketing before it skyrocketed to an extent. Yeah,
it was gone. The youngers were on it. So, but they still have the same grime energy. So it's almost like the energy is just transferred and they're doing their drill thing. But I would say on a production note, like take away the 808 bass and the same kind of rhythmic use that they use in the hi-hats. And
it's not that different. It really isn't that different. And I think as well in a lot of the kind of I find this a lot of the sort of melodic structure, especially when they bring sort of like pianos into the layup and stuff like that, and they're using almost like the horn stabs you kind of hear on that first kind of kick drum a lot of the time. You're hearing these sounds, and they're not like, it's not like this is the first time they've been used. We've heard them obviously in grime over and over the years. We also heard them in
No, sorry, go on.
I was going to say we also heard them obviously, and there was a brief period in the UK where the sort of EDM style trap kind of took over for like a year or so, and we heard a lot of those kind of like horn stabs there, and a lot of the similar kind of the minimal melodic approach a lot of the time. So it's been quite interesting to see how they've all kind of bubbled together and almost been stripped back to an extent. Almost imagine it like cooking through a stock or something like that. It's just simmered down, and you end up with this more kind of minimal. you end you end up with this more minimal kind of compositional style, which drill is in general is quite minimal in its approach. It's drums, usually one melodic instrument and an 808. It tends to be the layout, and it bangs. And I think that is almost to an extent a byproduct to an extent of grime almost being grime and all these other UK genres almost being intensified to an extent over the years.
Yeah, no, fair. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Still, it's a fair point. But as to grime, I won't knock drill ever. I won't knock grime ever. Really, like there may be all little aspects which you may not like, or but it's for everyone, innit? Everyone's got their own musical palette, and that's the great thing about it.
Of course, man.
But, yeah, man. Grime's in a good place production-wise. There are a lot of good producers out there. There are a lot of good artists out there. It's just whether the mainstream popularity comes with it in grime is always the question. But in terms of depth and like artistry and quality, yeah, it's in a good place. It's in a very good place.
I'd agree. I'd agree. And I think something that I'm finding quite interesting about grime now is vocalists, I feel to an extent a lot of the time, are getting a bit more, I don't want to say a bit more clever, but they're getting a bit more experimental and a bit more almost left field a lot of the time with the kind of vocals they're using and the way they almost attack instrumentals, I'm finding.
Well, when you say vocalists, what do you mean, like singers or just like vocalists and just MCs?
I mean, primarily rappers more than anything else. I tend to use the word vocalist just to cover anyone using their voice as an instrument more than anything else. But what I'm finding a lot of the time is rappers more so are getting a lot more kind of left field. They're kind of exploiting pockets that they wouldn't necessarily have exploited kind of like 5-6 years ago. People are almost becoming a bit more rhythmically aware of how they can stand out a bit more.
Yep, and they're becoming more aware that the voice is an instrument and you can use it in different ways. And they're stylistically, that's what these left field artists are doing with their voice now, and even with tone and projection and different things and articulation. It's all of that which can make an artist, I don't know, have their USP,
definitely
unique selling point, which,
I think
helps them stand out.
With this kind of thing, then obviously, because as we've seen over the years, obviously with your kind of with your input on Beat Boss as well, you've been someone who's always had the kind of very kind of musical angle when it comes to the judging side of things. Obviously, coming from a musical background, your production's always very very harmonic and very almost orchestral to an extent a lot of the time. Like when you see when you see artists now, especially rappers, kind of adding and understanding, as you just said, that the voice is an instrument, like do you get quite a lot of enjoyment out of that, to kind of see it and hear it and go,
nice.
finally?
It's good. Almost finally it's there. They most probably have been there from the beginning. Whether they've been brave enough to break the mold and actually go for it was always the thing. And then I don't know, it might even take a Drake, even, I don't want to mention him like that, but yeah, if you see when Drake was doing this rapping, singing thing, and people like, rah, the lyrics are hard and he's singing, the melody's sick and it's on point, like that opened it up. Like I always say, like rappers are the best songwriters. If you listen to some rappers and their lyrics, and then if you just listen to their flows and you have a good melody on top, you're like, rah, rappers actually make really good songs. A lot of them don't realize it. But now they are, because some are predominantly using auto-tune to do the melodic riffs instead of doing it with their voice, which is okay, because auto-tune is an instrument in itself as well. This
is something I was going to ask. Like, you see, this is something that's always aggravated me with people. When I hear people say, and there are still people that are doing this, and I think it's the dustiest phrase in the world you can use, when people say, oh, it's got auto-tune on it, I don't like it because it's fake. When I hear that phrase, do you know how annoyed it makes me?
Yeah, no, but I understand them though as well. I understand them. They're more of the purist, isn't it? If you're coming from that aspect, because they might know someone or have an artist that doesn't use auto-tune, so they hear them sing and they judge them as a singer without auto-tune. But big up T-Pain, innit?
Yeah,
really,
I always say this. It was T-Pain that started using it creatively. That he was the first person I heard using auto-tune, not subtly, using it out and going, I'm just going to use this. It's fun. Like, it's an instrument more than anything else.
Yeah. And he went hard with it, and it worked, and it does work many times. So say the singers will only maybe use it to correct certain notes or at certain parts of when they're singing where they may go out, but the whole general performance is on point. That's initially like in a real, I don't know, performative way for singers. That's how they would use it. But there's other ways to use it really in an extreme way where you're just rapping and it does it for you.
Definitely. I think an interesting comparison with this, to an extent actually, is to kind of take it almost back to essentially Jamaica when you're looking at a lot of the earlier sort of dub engineers, and they're obviously taking these almost like pieces of hardware and they're kind of flipping them, and they're not necessarily using them for the original sort of westernized purposes they would use for. They're more sort of stripping them back and experimenting with things. It's quite a similar thing with autotune to an extent.
Yeah, I guess so. That's a good like comparison still to draw. Definitely. Yeah. I would agree. In fact, I never kind of thought of it in that way, but definitely can't dismiss it.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Well, we've got a couple more things to discuss. Obviously, we've got some music to play as well. We're gonna run about a minute and a half or so of a couple of these tunes off the new project. One thing I wanted to discuss before we get into the kind of layout of the project is obviously one of the biggest instrumentals of the last sort of 10 years, without a shadow of a doubt, is of course Trumpet Boom. Talk me when you put this tune together. Did you kind of have any idea that it was gonna be one of these iconic grime tunes?
No idea whatsoever. I was just in the moment making tunes. Funny enough, I was with a friend before making some Grime 140, and I was doing some chords, and they were like, "Oh, Trebs, don't you think it's a bit like nice? It's too nice. Is it too nice? Like nice chords?" And like they're just like, "Oh, Trebs, I hear all that, man, but can you make it a bit more, darker, a bit more grimier?" And then I was like, "What? A bit more grimier, yeah? What, like this? Bah, 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 bah. I just started doing it, and then he's like, yeah, like that. And then I was like, cool. 5 minutes went in, and then I started getting into the tune, and then that's when the whole first half was made in about 15-20 minutes, really.
Oh man, that's a madness, man. I mean, obviously, when you look at it now, we look at almost like a mystery Pulse 8 from a similar period. That I'd say that's in a similar category over the last sort of 10 years. Of we look at kind of classic instrumentals that have appeared, tunes we're gonna be hearing the same way we're still hearing like a Morgue now, or like or like to an extent a Coyote. But we could get into that, and we'd be here all day.
For real. It's up there. It's, you know what? I realize it's gonna be a slow one after a couple more years, as time has passed already, and now you look back, then more people realize what it has done within this decade, as you said. So it's one of those ones you got to give it time, and that's how I guess classics are really tested over time.
Definitely, I think, and just in general, I'd say in musical terms, people do. I mean, it's almost like a cliche thing to say now that the term classic gets thrown around a little too often. But I definitely think with this one, I mean, it's already stood a long test of time, and I think a lot of the time with instrumentals now, because as we've been saying, it's now so accessible for producers to make music, get it online themselves, obviously put stuff on Bandcamp, Spotify, all this stuff. Like, there's no real need for a middleman a lot of the time anymore. We hear it must be like sort of 30 to 40 new grime instrumentals hit the shelves every week, so to obviously now more so have that level of longevity, it's quite impressive, I've got to say.
Yeah, of course, it definitely is refreshing, it's impressive, and long may it last.
Good stuff, man. Right, let's move forward onto the album then, which I believe dropped last week, 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken.
On the 29th.
On the 29th, okay. Yeah, 29th. So just over 2 weeks ago then. I mean, we're gonna get into the title track now, which I still don't. Is it I'm always really bad with pronouncing words I see written down that I don't know if it's how to do it. Is it ooh or is it oh? I'm not too sure.
Ooh, yeah, you got it first time right.
It's ooh, there we go. I've got the other thing when I'm doing radio shows is now I've just got into the habit of just asking straight up rather than trying to pretend like I know if I'm right or not. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to get into this one now. Obviously, this is the first time we've done a video recording with music, so there may be a little. It may take a second or so to kick in, but we're going to get into this one now. We are live on CubCamTV. Treble Clef is in the building. One time, what is the best social media tag for people to get hold of you on, my friend?
Coyote Guy, that's KYOTEGUY on everything, Twitter, Insta, all that stuff.
Nice. We're going to get into this one now. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're live on CubCamTV. It is Cave Talk with Treble Clef. So we're back inside the building. That one going by the name of Ooh. We're going to let it run quietly in the background. I'm hoping it's not too loud. I think it's just sort of simmering away in the background there. But yeah, we're back on the line with man like Treble Clef. Now, this being the title track. It's what? Say again?
No, we're inside.
Oh, inside. I thought you said it's died. I was like, what? What's going on? No, we're all good then. Okay, cool. So, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about the LP now. As far as I'm aware, this is the biggest project you've put together in a while.
I guess so. Yeah. After Treble's Diary, yeah. You're right, because a few EPs. Well, how many tunes? Lost and Found had 8 tunes. So yeah, 10 tunes. I would agree with you then. I would agree with you now. After Treble's Diary, then yeah, this would be still.
Nice, man. I mean, when you're putting together a project now, because obviously, as we've been saying, you're someone who has been doing this for a long period of time. When you put together a project of this kind of magnitude, do you sit down at the beginning and go, I want X many instrumentals involved on it, or is it very much a case of you more working continuously and then collating stuff at the end to form a project?
Yeah, it's like working continuously, really. And then maybe having a few bass tunes. Like, not every track was made consciously for the project. Some were just good enough to be in it. And in terms of the sonics, I felt it they all complemented each other without sounding too similar. And yeah, so I would say maybe about half of the project was made consciously for the project, and the other half was just of stuff that I knew was of that kind of quality or the same ilk of the ones that I consciously made for it, if that makes any sense.
Nice, man. Yeah, it does. I think something that's interesting about this one, obviously we briefly touched on it for literally a couple, like a millisecond or so, but this one, obviously the title track on this does still have that very kind of classic, almost folklore sound now within grime, that kind of which is now it's up there with like the esky lick, the kind of bling. It's up there with a load of these sort of like the Pulse X sounds. It's up there with
it's got its place.
With Dizzee's I Love You. Like when you're putting like something together like now, would you say that's something that you're using on a regular basis, or is it something that you threw in specifically for this one to kind of go, you know what, I'm still here, it's still me?
All the time. I've been basically the tag been in for the last couple of years consciously, really just like you hear it before. I just want you just to judge a tune for the tune, but obviously tags have association. So if you hear a tag that reminds you of a good tune before, then you're more inclined maybe to give this new one a chance.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
From a DJ's perspective, it's always been something that's been quite interesting to watch when people hear a tag and they go, in a dance specifically, people hear a tag and they go, oh, is this tune? I don't know which one it is, but it's by him. I know it's by him. And you hear it subconsciously. And someone who I've seen it happen with a lot, when you hear that you get the Are You Ready, obviously from Rude Kid, and you get the Filthy Gears one as well. The Filthy Gears one catches everyone literally.
Filthy Gears, yeah, man.
What I was going to ask is, with like tags, obviously, I was going to come onto this. Do you think they're almost essential now in regards to sort of grime production?
Grime for producer, if you want your name or your sound to be known, 100%. It is. It's your advertisement, really, isn't it? It's like it's your banner.
Yeah. In
that way, if you're a producer, unless you want to be incognito and everywhere, that's another way to go about it. Or you want people to know, this is my banner, this is my shop, this is my production, this is my product. Treble Clef. You know what I mean? Or,
definitely, man.
Are you ready? Like, you know what product you're gonna get.
Definitely.
And you trust it. You trust in it. It's like anything.
Really. I think something I was going to quickly touch on as well, just while we're here. This isn't something we're seeing just in grime anymore, is it? We see it a lot in drill. We see it. I mean, the one we're hearing have been hearing all over the charts for the last kind of few years is the J5 tag. Like that's something that's everywhere. Like, I mean, as far as I'm aware, that's something that does come from grime in the UK.
It does come from grime. You say it comes from the US as well. I would say US. I can't even remember whose tags, but there's a few producer tags as well. So
no, you got Mustard's one, I suppose. Mustard's one's quite Mustard on a beat. That's quite like
and then Timbo, like Timberland, he didn't have a tag like that per se, but he always did something on his tunes, which you knew that was a Timbo production.
Yeah.
And that was his tag, that he would always do something. So, and mainly it was his beatboxing.
Yeah.
He would always beatbox something.
That's true, actually. I'd completely forgotten that was a thing, but now you say it, it literally floods back into the forefront. That's mad to think about.
Yeah. So, you know, we have to, producers like Timbo has built a lot of tunes. If you play them at like grime tempo, you speed them up a little bit on the decks, and it just like sounds like an ordinary grime tune. Like not to downplay it, like as in it can just mix in as another grime tune. Easy. Timbo's got a whole heap of tunes which are like basically grime.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, this is something I did kind of want to touch on. We'll get back to talking about the album specifically in a minute, because I do want to kind of dive into it a little bit more. But in regards to sort of like worldwide, we're sort of talking here, sort of the UK's musical influence worldwide. Like I look at it now from a position of, I don't think it's ever been stronger in regards to how much UK underground music specifically is influencing sort of music from around the world. Like where's your kind of thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I think that for me this is the strongest I've seen it. Definitely as strong as I've seen it, definitely as an adult. Obviously, as when you're young, you're more impressionable, so you may perceive it to be bigger than it actually is.
Of course.
And then, you know, especially if you get into the game as well, then it may either become even more smaller than, you know what I mean? Because you see more of it and you might know more of the infrastructure behind it. So you'd be like, oh, how much of it is just, you know, media, gas to just kind of push something to the masses, or how much of it is actual tangible, real numbers or real figures or whatever. But right now, yeah, strong, man. Artists in the UK are doing all kinds of genres and dominating. Not necessarily dominating, but definitely influencing worldwide.
Definitely, man. I mean, an interesting way to look at it is if you go and look on YouTube on trending. As from a what's the way of putting it, from a not signed in, so you're just on just like a roaming freely, you're not signed into your personal like YouTube account or whatever. If you go and check on trending on YouTube, a lot of the time there's 5 or 6 or 7 UK tunes in the music section at all times, and that's worldwide, which is quite mad to kind of look at.
No, of course, the UK's doing really well right now, man. Overall, in terms of like genres, you look at each genres, it's doing really good. And like I said, like we're influencing on a worldwide level now, artistically, creatively, production, songwriters from here coming everywhere. You know, A&R's managers. It's like it's amazing, man. It's just unfortunate that the current time we're living in at this moment, it's just kind of said everyone stop everything you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just Corona and COVID-19 is just put a big pause in that. And but you're seeing how resourceful we are now, as we were saying earlier. And everyone's just being more resourceful, arming themselves up with more skills and making themselves more self-dependent and using things around, like such as the net and all of these new ways, like how we're holding this interview today.
Yeah, so, definitely, man.
It's a testament to our resilience.
I'd say I'd completely agree. I think something I was going to ask, because this is you can probably tell by now I'm someone I like to draw sort of out there comparisons in regards to the sort of, especially with the musical side of things. Like obviously in the sort of earlier days of grime, it was very much that people had to be resourceful in what they were using, and they had to kind of make these links themselves and get quite DIY with things. And then it got a bit industrified. I don't know if that's a word, but it got a little bit. There was a bit of industry interest and things started popping in a different way, and then everything. And it got a little bit more kind of almost business-minded.
More
then
corporate, you can say.
More corporate, that's the perfect word. That's exactly what I was looking. And then it got a bit more DIY again. So I think almost to kind of, there's a bit of a comparison, I think, to be drawn from sort of now people having to work out how to do things in their own homes, having to record at home, having to do all these little things. There's a bit of a comparison to those sort of earlier days in grime specifically, where everything was very homegrown to an extent.
Yeah, I think... then everything, like you said and you phrased, is exactly how it was. Everything was it's more tangible. So, you know, if I did A and went to go and do B, we can see what happens after that. You know what I mean? Like we just like, you know, as in A being go to a friend's house, record. B, print the CD. C, go to a pressing plant. You know what I mean? And then boom, get the vinyls, you got them. Okay, physically go to a shop. Drop a box off in each different DJ shops, telling your DJ friends, I don't know, you might be giving it to them $5 a vinyl or whatever. So we knew that physical, tangible thing that you had to move towards something, go into different areas, all picking up all of these skills that you're not even aware that you're picking them up, but you just know that that's what you have to do if you want to try and survive, isn't it?
Definitely.
And then it's only when someone maybe that's in the industry more often would see what you're doing and actually can, quantify what you're doing physically and tell you, sit you down, well, you know what you're doing, you're distributing, you're running the distribution company. What you're actually doing, you're getting records of like for yourself and other people, and you're going around to other places and shops. And it's like it takes someone that has more knowledge to show you what you're actually doing on a professional or more close to entrepreneurial level.
Definitely. I mean,
and that those transferable skills are the very things which say, for example, I don't know, someone like, look how well Tiny's doing now on the extreme ones. He's gone through the grime because that's where he started, and he's gone through different path in terms of music. But as an infrastructure now he's got around him, Disturbing London, he's doing his thing. A lot of the things that he would have done on the come up, those transferable skills have helped him clearly in the corporate world he's in now.
Definitely, 100%. I think that's a really good example of it as well with Disturbing London.
Yeah, 100%. So there's like many ways which are resourcefulness and resilience and, entrepreneurship. There's many different examples of how, it's been done. Obviously, climates and economics and all that stuff were different at different times. And I reckon right now is the toughest. But I swear, even Shakespeare wrote Hamlet during the Black Plague, no? Didn't he? In isolation, right?
I mean, I say, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I could not give you a date on when it was written, but I've heard something along the lines of he wrote.
I think he did.
Yeah.
I think he did. And he was in isolation as well, funny enough. So really, on a flip note, like artists, this should be the most creative time ever, really.
Yeah.
And, there's so much going on in the world for painters to paint. Painters could paint mad pictures from what's been going on right now. They could have mad inspiration. Songwriters can, all of this. That's how I reckon. On a deeper note, musicians overall, that's our role. It's like to reflect what's going on in society via our art, be it singing, composing, being a painter, whatever it is you may do. If you're a dancer, however it is you may, portray your art is a reflection of the world and yourself at the same time. So.
Amazing, man. It's a very, very, very it's a kind of deeper way of looking at it, but it's entirely true. And I think obviously inspiration to an extent often is drawn from tragedy to an extent. Yeah.
Tragedy and joy, isn't it? The two extremes.
Yeah. There we go.
Two extremes. And if you can translate that into whatever craft it may be, then that's when you're on a winner.
Definitely.
That's when you're on a winner.
Let's switch things up a little bit then. Let's get into another tune off the album before we finish up this conversation. This one is obviously the catchphrase of yourself. This one goes by the name of Inside. So let's run a minute or so of this one, then we'll get into breaking it down and we'll finish off a discussion about the album. We got a little bit sidetracked, but that's fine. It's my show. I can do what I want with these conversations at the end of the day. We're going to get to this one now. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're live on Cave Talk. Treble Clef joins us right about now. We're live on CubCamTV. If you haven't already, please do hit the subscribe button, hit like as well. We're going to be doing loads more of these, and keep it locked. We'll be back in a second. inside the building with man like Treble Clef right about now. As you can see, we've not gone anywhere. We're just letting you hear some sweet music right about now. That's what's going on. This one goes by the name of Inside, and again, a real kind of showcasing to an extent of the musicality of your production, and that being very much your lane in the way you kind of put stuff together and have done over the years. Like, would you say that's almost would you say that's your signature approach, the musicality side of it?
I guess so. Now, not I've never really thought of it like that, but yeah, my style, my fingerprint. But it's just what I like to hear, or what I feel is maybe in my head when I'm hearing like my compositions or production, and I might think it needs something else, and I will literally be hearing it in my head, and until I bring it out with whatever instrument, then it comes out my head, and then I'll be like, okay, it's complete now. So and I like to add layers, but because different layers, people might equate adding so many different layers to a track as being like musical, because there's so much going on, and I hear that on one sense, and then on the other sense I debate it as well. So but to answer your question, yeah, it is, I guess, but I just like to make nice sounding things, because to compare that to Oo's kind of very stripped back.
Definitely.
So it's like, that's like the opposite end of the spectrum. But yeah, I don't know. It's full. I almost imagine like a whole orchestra or even band, and even an MC there as well in the middle, because you can, if you go back to 1930s, they had big bands where they had big bands, 57 members and a singer. So, and it still sounded sick.
Yeah, of course.
Still sampled some of that and then into a tune today, and it sounds sick. So yeah, that's just trying to make bigger sounding things, more epic. I don't know, man, just touch people's ears in musically and just get something going. Definitely,
man. I think it's there's always been kind of two. I'd say these are the two sort of ends of the grime spectrum. I'd often said that you get the more sort of, the best way to put it, I think, is if we're going to do early tunes, we can do this is going to be quite ironic to say now I've thought about it, but we're going to do like a Pulse X, which is pretty much rhythm and bass sound to an extent. That's sort of very much that. And then we have a Ghetto Coyote, which is a lot more musical. It has a lot more melodic movement. It has a lot more kind of structure to it. And then let's go forward 15 years or so, and the same thing can be said of the two tunes I said that immediately spring to mind for sort of classic grime instrumentals over the last 10 years with Pulse 8 and Trumpet Boom. So it's almost like it's very similar in those sort of ways over the years.
Yeah, no, that's a good checkpoints that you've made, because, and then even in the production at each point in time, you can still hear like the growth of the sound.
Definitely.
Overall. So that's like, even as well, like just musically, but when people are mixing down and mastering, people are getting better.
Definitely.
And it's really good.
Awesome, man. I mean, we've got a couple of minutes left, so I was gonna kind of run through a couple of quick fire Q&A questions, which I like to do at the end of these interviews, just to kind of round things off nicely. In regards to yourself, production wise, what is if you have to have one sort of snack or food type that you can have there when you're making music, what is it?
Wow. It might be, I wouldn't even say not Haribo's. Yeah. It's a Haribo thing. Still, I can't lie. It's a Haribo. Get the munchies.
Which flavour though? Because there's a lot of Haribo out there. The sour ones.
Sour or the original blue one. It's only them two. Sometimes the colas as well.
Yeah, nice, man. I won't lie. I'm an absolute sucker for what is it? The strawberries, the big round strawberries.
Yeah. They never put enough of the strawberries in there.
Never, and they're always smaller than the ones you can get in the big pick and mix boxes that you always find in the corner shops, man. They're the favourites. They're the ones. Second question then on this listing: if you could have a collaboration with any vocalist in the world right now, and any producer in the world right now, not all on the same tune, one tune with each, who would it be?
Well, any vocalist, you know. He's popping right now in the world. Just because I think he's sick, Kendrick Lamar still, I can't lie.
Nice.
A session. Yeah, I reckon me and Kendrick will come up with some sick shit.
Nice.
Producer.
Producer's always a more difficult one to answer, I find, with these sort of questions.
Yeah. It is as well. It is, as I'm thinking about it. There's too many, man. I don't want to be cliche and say Timbo, but Timbo still.
There we go.
Oh, Kanye. Maybe Kanye.
Yeah, Kanye's a good one.
I'll get both. I'll get both from Kanye. So that's like 2 for 1.
There we go.
Kanye and Kendrick, both of them.
There we go. Good stuff. Right, we're going to wrap it up there then, guys. Thank you to everyone who's taken part and watched in this conversation. Treble, one more time, run us through what's happening with the album. Obviously, it's out there now. Just give us a little promo splash.
Yeah, well, LP is out right now. Coyote World Records on all platforms. So that's Bandcamp, social media, iTunes, Spotify, Deezer, Tidal, Shazam it. Where else? It's on Inside the Ride TV. Give that a view. There's a couple videos on there from our old sets back in the day. And when I mean back in the day, only like a year ago. What else is going on? I've got a few singles coming out after this project, but still going to be pushing this project through. Survive right now is pumping. People love that. Give that tune a play. It's connecting really well. What else is coming? Yeah, you just Inside the Ride TV at Coyote Guy. That's KYOTEGUY. And just, follow me for any updates. More music's coming for you. More visuals is coming towards you as well. And more content overall. You might see a couple of interviews as well myself, so I might be flipping the table on you, mate. Might be flipping the table.
I look forward to it, man. This is why I do this show, so I can end up just getting interviewed everywhere. I love being interviewed. It's my favourite thing in the world. I just never get it. So I'm going to go the other way around. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your evening to do this. It's been really insightful to kind of listen through your kind of approach to things, and obviously to hear a lot more about the musicality side of things as well. We're going to finish up there. Right then, everyone who has been locked in, please do hit subscribe on the button, which should be down there somewhere. Also hit like on the video and leave your comments as well. Let us know who else you'd like for us to get onto Cave Talk as well. This is obviously different to the Brekky show, but we will be back in the morning 7 till 10 via Trickstar, and of course 10 till 12 here on the channel is when we stream live. It's always very, very clever how we put everything together, I've got to say. But yeah, we're going to finish up there. Thank you for watching, my friends, and we will speak soon. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Big up.